So, all right, everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining me, whether you're watching live or on the replay. All right, there we go. So, let's record. All right, everyone, welcome to part 5 or episode 5 of September is Significant. And we are talking about self mastery, how self mastery is service and how to be instead of do. So, if you want to know about the significance, we're talking about our personal P values, the 5% of the data points in our lives that we can control to get the results that we want. So if you are just joining me, I invite you to go back and watch the welcome video and then the first episode so you can understand so you can understand this process. So these are not isolated videos. They build upon each other. So it is important to start with number one, the first episode about setting up your vision. And if you're not doing that, then all of these things will be in isolation. And then that's what I've discovered some of the pitfalls of personal development or self growth is because we're learning just random tactics and we're not putting them in a container through our own filter and we're not doing it towards our vision or our goals, which is why things are not happening like we want them. And I know that from personal experience. I've seen that with other peers and then also with clients as well. So when you have a vision, so here's an example, then we're going to get into the lesson. Keep this in mind for those of you that went to college, whether the traditional route or you took some sort of certification, post high school, and you took all these classes, but everything was funneled towards an end result. So even if a class felt like it's like, why am I taking this class? But it was all part of the ecosystem for you to get on the path to get that end result of the degree. You didn't just go take these random classes, right? When you started, if you went the traditional route, you got a plan of study and it was like, well, what is your major? And it's like, well, I want to major, like for me, in mathematics. Okay, great. These are all the classes that you need to take overall in general. And then when you get down specifically in your major. And so even down like certain history classes, because some part of my degree was education. So even certain history classes, I didn't take all of the history classes. And it was like, why do I need this? But then looking back, it made sense. So everything was built around you getting to the end result. So that's how I believe that we need to approach life as well, whether it's you're only focusing on improving just your personal life or your career or your business, even though all of it goes together. We don't have to live in these isolated buckets. But the key thing is we are the drivers of that ship. We are the ones who take charge and move forward. So just like when you were in college, the advisors or counselors gave you your program of study. It was up to you to register. It was up to you to show up to those classes and turn in those assignments and take the exams and plan for the next semester ahead. So we were in that structured environment. But then when we got out and became adults, it's like that went away. Unless you were in a career where it was structured that way. But even when you've reached a certain goal in your career, you're kind of looking around like, well, what's next? Because a lot of us have been conditioned and trained to operate in those containers. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand, how you how you've been conditioned and how you show up in the world. So now let's talk about like what is personal mastery. Some people think about this when I say, self development, personal development, and I even thought about this. It was really about, knowing yourself, taking care of yourself. Some people, you've heard serve from your saucer, serve from your overflow. I've said those words, but then it's like, what does that really mean? And then you probably heard, well, put you in front of the line, don't be a martyr, you fill yourself up. What that really means in the practical sense is you have to be a leader, like a CEO of your life. I do talk about being the CEO of YOU, the Chief Expansion Officer of your own universe. Now, for those of us who are believers, this is not to say that, God is not in control, that, he does have sovereignty and rule over everything, and he ultimately has the decisions, but he give us free will to a point to whether we can do something or we don't, right? And then on the other side of that, he didn't set it up to say that you rely on me and you do nothing. He gave us abilities to do things, right? So we can't just pray and sit, and then when we say, well, I pray and I waited on God, wait, it's an active wait, by the way. That means you're supposed to be doing something. So this is not just, well, I'm just going to sit here and then let the opportunity come. No, you put yourself in the position so when the opportunity comes, you get to recognize, see it, and go forth. That, like I said, in the other class, as believers, we have a cheat code because we don't have to do all this on our own accord or, on our own. We can truly rely and depend on God. But in case you want something more practical, a lot of these things we talk about, believe it or not, it is Bible based. But you don't have to be a Christian or a believer for these things to work. That is evident in the world today. Some of the most highly successful people are not believers in Christ, but why are they still, successful in the tangible sense? Is because they follow these principles, and the Bible is very heavily built on leadership and those principles. So for anybody, whether you're a believer or not, it is still important for you to understand personal leadership and focusing on these attributes. Now, remember that the 12, their data points for the p-value, your statistical significance, the 5% of everything that you can focus on. We're only focusing on 12 things. So consider this data point of leadership. Now, you may not be thinking, well, I'm not a leader, I don't have a company, or I'm not, I don't have this leadership role in my career. Leadership is not a title. It's not a position. It is one, it's like a research area of people like study this. I have a degree in leadership, educational leadership, but same thing. And but that's so you can research that, but then there's also a skill that you can develop. And the great thing is you can be any type of leader you want to be. You just have to make a decision. The way to make the decision is to go back to part one, like I asked you to. When you wrote down that scary vision that I know that God is giving you to do, that is what you're supposed to do in life, and that's what you're working towards. This is not just a goal, because goals are meant to be met and surpassed, and we make some more. The vision could be something that potentially outlives you. Okay. So the vision, who is the person to drive that vision? What type of person do you need to be to drive that vision? This is important, and this is why I'm taking the time to set the foundation for people because whether you decide to work with me long term and something that I have coming up, or whether you decide to work with another coach, strategist, mentor, advisor, insert whatever, it is important that you stay true to yourself, regardless of what they're saying. So this is not saying that, oh, they're telling me this, so I must do exactly what they say. No, you filter that through the lens of your vision, and you be open to hear everything, but you have to take control and say, okay, does this fit for me? Now, if you've been led to work with that person and you signed up, then you listen to every single thing. James 1:19, I just did a thread on this. We're talking about being quick to listen and slow to speak. That really means you take in all the instruction that you hear, but then you slow down to make the decision on how you're going to proceed forward. This is not about overthinking. You being the leader, you're going to be decisive and make the decision, but you're like, what is the best way for me to, how does the person who's leading that ship, that vision, use this information to continue to move forward? So, we are all leaders in a certain capacity, and there are about 5 to 15 areas of your life that you can be a leader of. And honestly, the vision you should be able to see your vision in all the areas of your life. And that's something that I'm really working on myself. But we're talking about some skills, some things that you can actually develop, some tangible things. So, what do you have to do before you can lead anybody else? Now, this is from my personal experience when I used to do consulting work for school districts. there were people in leadership roles, but they didn't know how to lead. They knew how to manage, and that's very different. They got and they could tell people like what to do, but they couldn't influence and inspire people and motivate people and guide people to do the end goal. It was like I told y'all what to do, and if they didn't do it, it was just like, well, do more of the work I told you to do. And so let's break this down. Some definitions of what it means to be a leader. Let me get my notes. So one thing that you can know that a leader and you quick Google search. Leadership skills are a combination of abilities that help you guide and motivate people to work together towards a common goal. Now you might be saying it's just me. You are not just you by yourself in isolation. You have friends, you have family, you have people in your community that you work with. Let's think about people who are like solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. You have probably contractors and things like that. You may have an assistant, a personal assistant. And here's something else, even if it's you and you're not having a business, think about like how you operate your life. Like if if you get food delivered or you go do the apps on the grocery store for pickup, if you still take clothes to the cleaners or if you get your car, any of those little things that you're managing in your life, if you think of yourself as the CEO of your life, then I think you will start approaching how you manage and delegate things in your life. Let me know down below if you're tracking with me. So, all towards a common goal, how can you get the people around you to support you in a way that they're either helping you move towards the common goal, or if you're directly responsible for them or impact them, how are you sharing your common vision so that they all move towards your common goal? If you are the head of a company, then everyone needs to understand your vision and everybody needs to move towards that. When people are not following that vision, it's time for them to go. No disrespect, but it's like, this is what we're doing over here. If you want to do your own thing, you go get your own vision. And everyone, even though like there may be like a top person, and Steve Jobs keeps coming to mind, but he had this vision for Apple, but everybody still had their role. And even within Apple, there are people who still had their own personal visions, but it was still aligned to the main thing unless they decided to break away and do something else. Same thing with you in your personal life. Now, your personal life, you show up that way in your career or in your business. Okay. So I just wanted to set that foundation. So you're working with people to move towards a common goal. You can do this with family, you can do this with friends, you can do this with outsourcing and things like that. So some leadership skills. Now, these are kind of up in the air, but I get it. But it's integrity, accountability, vision, self-awareness, empathy, reliability, dependability, creativity, positivity, and you can keep going. One thing is, do on your own time, research some leadership skills and then learn those skills. It is not something that you just read about, you show up and do that. So, if you can't do that for your own life, if you can't manage your own life, then you can only go so far when it's managing other people. You'll hear a lot of top successful people who probably stay at work and they work all these hours a week, or they have their own business, and they're the man or they're the woman in the business, like top person. But when they come home in their personal life, they're like a shell of themselves, and they don't have any purpose. And that's why a lot of them work so much, because they don't know how to bring that same personal leadership into their lives, because that could be draining and exhausting. If you're that person, you don't want to be like, yeah, I'm the main woman, I'm the main man at my job, and then when I come home, you're you don't want to do that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to treat, if you are the man, the woman in your company or your business or in your job, that you come home and treat your friends and family that way, but there still should be something at your core that you still show up as that person. That's why I said how you be instead of do. A lot of us can do any role, but it's like when you take away the role, does that take away who we are? So personal example, my title, Dr. Vernita, for a long time, I did not want to accept the fact, like I did not want people to call me doctor. And it took a long time for me to own that and accept that, like I did the work. But then it's like, what does it really mean to have this doctorate of philosophy? And I had to sit with that. And it was like, I went through, this is what I did, and this is what I'm inviting you to do. I went through, like, I looked it up. What does it mean to have this doctor of philosophy? What skills and things that I learned? Or who, like, what do the, like, I just took a deep dive on that and looked at those characteristics. And I said, can I own these characteristics even without the title of doctor? And once I sat with that, and I was like, I am this person, whether you know I have this degree or not. And I once I own that, whether I use doctor or not, I'm still that person. So then there was a before let me jump over that. Then there was a time where I was being doctor, but I used the title, and then when I was a professor, I acted in that role. But the moment I got in my car, I just kind of like sunk down a little bit, and all these things kept going through my head. It was like, well, you're successful over here in your professional life, but your personal life is crap. I wrote a lot about that in my book, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment. So, what I had to do, and this is what I'm telling you, the 5% of the data for that moment in my life, the statistical significance that I had to focus on were those qualities and traits of someone oh, who who achieved a degree of a doctorate of philosophy and sit with that and own that. And then I started showing up better at my job. Now, showing up a little too good because I got fired, but it's all good. So I'm telling you that with every role that you're trying, and I'm doing leadership, and it has to relate to your vision of someone who's leading, who wants to run a real estate, who wants to be a real estate mogul versus someone who wants to be like a major restaurateur, like, Gordon Ramsay, or someone who wants to own a consulting agency, or a business owner who wants to have a chain of car washes. Those may take all types of different leadership styles. So you have to know that, that's why it's important for you to know your huge vision so you can operate accordingly even before you get there. So one other thing to look at, this is a version of self mastery and personal mastery or self mastery, personal leadership. Here's the definition: personal mastery is a set of principles and practices that help people learn, develop a personal vision, and to view the world objectively. It is also a way to live and work at your best, and it can help you produce high quality results. So everything starts with personal vision. You have to know that for your life. You have to know your core values and then how they operate on your beliefs. And then that leads into your decision making. If you have not done this exercise or it's been a while, go and find out your top 3 to 5 personal values. There's so many tests that you can take online, inventory tests for you to do that. And don't get, so caught up on it, but just take a few so you can have like a baseline of what to track and see, am I operating in this way? When it's time for me to make a decision, do I filter it through this values lens, and does it align to my vision? Notice I don't say your personal vision and your career vision or your business vision. Your life vision should be the umbrella, and then the things that you want to accomplish in those categories, they still should align to your vision, because your business or your career may change, but your person does not. I believe that our true purpose in life, the overall, it doesn't change. Once God created us, it was like, that's what I want you to do. So don't confuse your purpose with your assignment or your calling. Your overall purpose and vision, like, what impact do you want to leave on the planet? So don't get caught up on it. It can be an umbrella thing. It's not, it could be, like I said, it could be in world hunger. That could be your whole big vision. But then what does that look like in different areas of your life? What are some things that you're doing in your career? Now, your career, it may not be anything about feeding people, but it could be a place where you're starting to make connections and seeing how you can get people on your team or learn different things that could help you later on support that vision. If your business is a chain of car washes, and you're like, what does that have to do with feeding people? Well, maybe if you grow your business uh, to get a lot of revenue and profits coming in, then when you have a successful business as far as profits, then you can use that to fund the big vision of world hunger or whatever you decide to do. Let me know if that makes sense for you. I think a lot of us get caught up on just the small part. It's like, I just want to own a business. For what? For what? Just to make more money? You can make money, after a certain point, just like we've seen people, they make all this money and they're like, all right, what else am I supposed to do? That's because even they don't have a true vision. So we need both. We need to be able to know our big vision and our purpose, but don't get so caught up in that we ignore the tangible things to help and the practical things to get us there. But then don't be so focused on the practical and tangible things that you don't have a purpose for what you're doing. We need both. All right, something else I want to share, different leadership styles. So when I was getting my degree, and it's been a while, so I saw some on here and I was like, oh, that's new. I didn't study that. But I think it'd be interesting, an assignment for you to do. Go look at some different leadership styles and see if that's the type of person you want to be. Remember, this is about who you be instead of do, because who you are at your core is going to be everywhere you go. And once you start owning that identity and operating in that, people should be able to understand you, and know what to bring to you, what not to bring to you, how to approach you, and how not to approach you. Because now you're just being, you're not just acting, you're not just doing it. It oozes out of you how you want to be. Like, I think I gave this example one time. There are some people who have this personality that's just so sweet and innocent and just you know that person, and when you see them in a picture or you see them on camera or you just see them standing there, they ooze this kind of, you know, like fairiness about them. And I was like, man, I want that. I mean, I don't, but sometimes I do. I'm like, I want to be able to, like, people look at me and they just ooze that, oh, they're so sweet. But then it's like, do I really just want to be known as a sweet person? Nothing bad, but it doesn't fully align with the person that I want to be. So every day I'm working on, how do I want to show up? Like, when I see people, what do I want them to think about me? Then I do the things that align to that. And this isn't for everyone to like me, but it's like, these are the things I want people to say about me. When people start saying these things without me having to ask or to lead them in that way, then I know I've become that person. And I've done that in several areas, and I'm continuing to do that. So that is an example of personal leadership. All right. So as we wrap up, because I've given you different things to do, I'm looking for the type of leadership styles. Now, this is something that I just thought about right before I got on. I haven't fully fleshed it out, but I think it can support what I'm talking about and give you something else to anchor that 5% for this key data point of personal leadership. So there are transformational leaders. Now, in the education leadership space, everyone wants to be a transformational leader. And I thought that was just a trend when I worked at the school district, school the school transformation office, literally in the title. But then I went and looked at certain things and different categories of people, like responding to different articles and things, and transformational leadership had the biggest one. And so everyone's like, I want to help you improve. My issue with that is, like, are you working on yourself to improve yourself as a leader before you try to improve others? Transformation, and whether that's in transformational coaching, transformational speaking, or transformational leadership, that is the one everyone goes after, but that is the most challenging one to do because it requires you to be vulnerable, to do the deep work on yourself, to expose yourself, to be more honest with yourself, have a highest level of self-awareness, and then be willing to work on those things. So it's easy to say you want to be a transformational leader and tell other people what they need to change in themselves, but if you're not doing the work, then you need to stop calling yourself a transformational leader. This is a bonus. So, like a transformational speaker, and I've learned this from coach some high level speaker coaches. If you want to be a transformational speaker, the one that gets the people to real feel deep, but then also take action, they have to sense that from you coming from the stage. And in order for you to do that, that means you have to go in those dark places of your life, work on something so that you can, like we talked about in one of the episodes, then be able to stand on your story as the hero. But you've gone through the journey, right? So it's easy to talk about being to be the transformational leader or speaker or coach. But if you're not doing the work, then you need to stop calling yourself that until you're willing to take that deep dive. Then you have delegative leadership that says it allows people to make decisions with minimal supervision. If that's the type of person you want to be. There are people who run, huge successful businesses and companies, excuse me, who are mostly hands off. But you have to do what makes sense for your vision and for you. And sometimes, how you want to be, you have to really be honest. Like, is this where God wants me to be in life? Especially if you're a believer, this is where God wants me to be. You may think you want something over here, and you probably could be really, really good at it. But if that's not where God wants you to be, then you're only going to settle for good instead of being great and phenomenal. And I had to do that. I was like, there are certain areas like I did not want to do this. I did not want to talk about certain things. And I was like, I'm good over here in the education space. And I might dabble a little bit back over there because I'm like, I could do this both. But then it's like, well, where do you really want me to be? I was like, this is new. It feels weird, but God has given me more grace in this area versus when I was just going after what I was good at. All right. Authoritative leadership style is where you set clear expectations and make decisions all by yourself. You can do that. They have participative leadership where you seek input from team members before making a decision. Now, remember, team members can be your family, it can be your community, it can be people that you outsource. It's not necessarily about you running a fortune number. Because I'm like, from one, I don't even know how many categories it are, but a fortune certain number category company, right? Fortune 500, 100, 200, whatever. It's not always about that. It could be about your life. There are some people who are uh homemakers, stay at home mothers, stay at home fathers, but they run that family like a well-oiled machine. Those are leaders. I watch a few of them on YouTube and I am amazed. I'm like, see, that's how I need to show up. One right now before I even get to that point, and then that's the type of parent or wife or spouse, whatever I want to be. And so they run their families like their corporations. And it's not like hard. The kids are still loved and there's still a lot of love and fun in there, but you can tell that there's a machine operating behind that. So I wanted to give you that example of what personal leadership can be. So that mother is mainly mothers who do women who do that. Not saying that it only has to be women, but I've mostly seen women, but they are like CEOs and I know they have a strong sense of personal leadership, and that's how they're able to show up like that. Then you can have coercive leadership style that demands immediate compliance. There are some people like that. Pace setting leadership focuses on performance, sets high standards, and holds team members accountable. So remember, team members, I did a video about that. It's not always your like employees, it's like who helps you run your life, right? Um, Affiliative leadership focuses on building emotional bonds. Democratic leadership creates consensus, endures team members to have a voice. Oh, ensures, I'm like endures, ensures team members have a voice. Coaching leadership focuses on developing people for the future. Charismatic leadership uses magnetic and persuasive personality to attract and motivate followers or people to them. If you do that, sit with that and be honest with yourself. Now, you may say, "Oh, I want to be a charisma a charisma well, I think everyone should have a version of charisma with them, but let's say you want to be like authoritative, like I want to set the expectations and make the decisions by myself. If that is it, this is why you have to go back to your vision. If that is not the type of person that operates that vision and then the goals that are underneath that, then it's not gonna turn out well for you. It makes no sense. Now, you may have qualities of that uh, when it's time to do things independently, but you may not be able to run your big vision that way. So that's why it's important as we wrap up. And these are not all of them. You can go just do a quick Google search. Sit down. If you have a coach or consultant and you're working with someone, it is important that you have this baseline data. So when you go in, then you can start filtering all the tactics and the advice that they're giving you through that lens, and that'll keep you from being wishy-washy. Now, there are times when if the coach is telling you, still have to be coachable when they're telling you something. If they're a true coach, if they're a true coach and they're asking you questions, then you have to be honest with yourself. Now, if they're a consultant or more like a facilitator and they're giving you tactics, then understand that that's what you're there for. So, for example, I'm running a boot camp that I'll start talking more about it as we get closer into the middle of the month. But there are six skill areas that I'm talking about. One of them, if you watch my leverage and lead challenge, one of them was like writing. So if I'm telling you some things about this is how you start, do some sort of copywriting, for a blog, email, whatever. Then if I say yeah, follow these steps right here, the steps you follow. But if I'm giving you examples that don't align with you, then that's where you and your personal leadership comes in and say, okay, for my vision, I hear these steps. How would I write through my lens, my values, and my beliefs following those steps, right? So that's not the time for you to be like, oh, well, that just doesn't work for me. The steps do work, but the if you're bucking up against something, that means you're not doing something aligned to your vision and you're not being the leader of yourself. So you come in just like you used to do, come in, let me hear what I need to hear. Now, if I'm coaching you on that, then I'll start asking you, well, what about this process that is knocking you down? What is preventing you from writing? Why do you think you haven't written a certain blog post? And then we'll start working through that so you can start writing. All right. So I given you a lot of nuggets. So to tie this up in the bow, when we're talking about self mastery is service, so I can wrap this up for you, you have to be the leader of yourself, your personal leader, how you're managing your emotions, how you make decisions, how you problem solve, how you lead your life. Because once you do that and you have an anchor on you, then it is easier for you to lead other people, guide other people, serve other people, support other people, and you can operate better in your career and be more productive and effective. And the same thing in your business, right? So it is you. Once you are solid, if this is an example, whether you want to be a mother or not, but just listen to this example. I hear a lot of people say, if the mother is solid, safe, and secure, she has everything to give to her child or children, and even to her husband, if she's married. Now, there are people out there that want to be solo parents. Kudos to you. I'm just saying what a lot of the research says. But if that mother, even if she's not married, but I think it's like if they have a supportive spouse, but even if she's a solo parent and she has a solid network around her to where she's fully supported and she's strong and stable at her core, then she can literally conquer the world because of her leadership. She can have 15 children and still run a business or have a career because she's solid at her core. Same thing with you. If you are solid, think if you are solid at your core, I'll finish the thought. There's nothing you cannot do because you are solid and you can start seeing things clearly and you're regulated yourself. If you're frantic, everything else becomes frantic. And I've learned it for myself. I was like, you know what? I steer this ship. If I stay at the gap, I don't care what the passengers are doing back there, right? But if I know that I'm on track and I know this destination, there's nothing that can knock me off track. Now, the wind may come and there's something that may rock, but I'm still on course and I'm still in control. And then that's part of that personal leadership. If you're navigating a ship, you know, then if a storm is coming, I get all the information, then I decide where we take the direction of the boat. That is what you have to do in every single area of your life. And yes, you can still do this if you're a full-time employee. It's just the mind shift that you are thinking about that you are in control of. All right, so that's all I have for you. A few things that I have down for you at the bottom. I I just finished the second workshop of the virtual expo, the post workshop, to where it was a curated strategic kind of vision mapping workshop that was specifically for you when you answered the questionnaire, and we worked on something targeted for you to have a game plan to move forward, whether it was with me or another coach or just by yourself. We have more coming up. Information is down below. If you don't want to attend any of the workshops, then I invite you to go to Master Coach U and you can start going through some on-demand kind of sessions and practices that I have done for myself and with other people in 4 different zones, and that information will be down below for you to get started and start working on your personal leadership. All right. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. And remember, whether you're beginning your day or ending your day, remember to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time. Bye.